Welcome to Hope Academy. My name is Mr. O, and today I'm going to be going over the ACT Practice Exam 2. It's provided on the ACT websites, but I'm specifically going over numbers 10 through 12. Be aware that usually when I do these questions, I go over them real quick and then I explain in depth. If you want to watch the prior videos, please do look into our channel. We do have a playlist set up for you guys, so you can watch the prior questions. But that being stated, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So for number 10. Okay. Okay, so for number 10, my final answer is G. And now I'm going to go ahead and explain to you how I will get to this answer. So for number 10, it's in a specific format right now that is not the slope-intercept. So my goal in the end when I do these type of questions is to convert everything into slope-intercept form. If it's not a slope-intercept form, I do not know what the slope of the line would be. And in order to create a slope-intercept form, it has to be in the format y equals to mx plus b. This means that y has to be by itself without any coefficient or any number next to it, and then everything else is moved to the other side. And thus, for this question, now I'm going to go ahead and do it in a different color so you can follow along. So when I start off with 9x plus 4y equals to 7, I understood right off that, well, I need to move everything to the other side. So I first moved 9x to the other side. And be aware that I did mental math this quite a bit so that it saved me time. But that being stated, if you're not too comfortable with it, it's fine. Just keep practicing so you get used to it. Afterwards, I divided by 4 on both sides. And the important thing is that after I got to this point, this is my slope. This mx plus right here. The m part is my slope right here. So m is my slope. And so because negative 9 over 4 is going to be my fraction, I knew right off my final answer for this question is going to be G. And that concludes my explanation for number 10. To continue on to the next question. So for number 11. Back down 30. Okay, so let me send the dollars left over. Forget the employee discount 20%. Discount 20%. Okay, well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So 70 times 0.2. Okay, 14. So minus 14. $56. And so how much am I paying? Okay. So for number 11, my final answer is going to be C. And now I'm going to explain to you how I was able to get to this answer. So for number 11, it's all about percentages. This type of concept is a little bit leaning towards, statistics, but not totally. It's just a very basics of percentages, and it's more like that. But what I did was that I understood. I'm going to go step by step what the question states, and I'll do it in a different color so you can follow along. But it first states this. It states a list price of $100 marked down by 30%. So that literally means that I'm taking out of 30% out of the $100. So I basically understood there's 100 times 0.3. Yeah, I'm going to convert it to that. And what's going to happen is going to equal to $30. So that means it's reduced from $100, it's reduced to $30. So I did 100 minus $30, and I equal to 70. So now I have $70 left that the DVD player costs. But the next step is really important too, to understand and to follow along. So the next step states this. John also gets an employee discount 20% off the sale price. Do we know? I'm doing it off this sale price. How much will John pay? So what happens is that I got to do this process again. So I have to do $70. Now this is my sales price times 0.2, which on the calculator I found out was $14. Afterwards, I have to subtract 70 from 14, which is what I did right here. So 70 minus 14 is going to be 56. Thus how I was able to get to the final answer of C, and that concludes my explanation for number 11. Now let's continue on to the last question. So now I'm going to bring the sheet over and everything else on it so that you can follow along. So number 12. Okay, number 12 says, what's the square root of, let me bring it down so you can see what I'm doing. What's the square root of negative 9 squared? So we technically everyone, which is 9i. Okay, so for number 12, my final answer is going to be F. And now I'm going to go ahead and explain to you how I was able to get to this question, or answer, I mean. The first thing you have to know for certain is that this is based on imaginary numbers, okay? Imaginary numbers, or complex solutions also is a very similar term that's used here. complex solutions. It's not as relevant or important per se, but just be aware of these terms. So when they gave me the question, and I'm going to write it bigger this time, so maybe I'll use a different color so you can follow along better. So let's say that I have a value of, it states this, actually, the question states this. So the first thing is that I need to follow based on the rule of PEMDAS when I'm solving this out. So PEMDAS is an acronym for a lot of a concept that helps me understand the sequence of what things go by. So, and I'm going to go ahead and write that down. So parentheses, hopefully I spelled that right, maybe it's an E, parentheses. Then it's exponential. Then it's going to be multiplication or division. Multiply, divide, and duly note I'm putting them next to each other because they're both, as equal priority. And then is addition, subtraction. And so when I'm using PEMDAS rules right off for this question, I don't need to worry about addition or subtraction because there's none of that going on. But first thing first, the parentheses, this is where combined is -9, and then I have to go to exponential next. So exponential tells me that I need to, square this. So it's going to end up becoming the square root of -81. And now the concept of imaginary numbers comes into play, and they do also provide it to you here. Be aware that it might not be provided on the test, so please do memorize this rule, where I will equal to the square root of -1. So basically, the idea behind that statement is the idea that if I separate this into two pieces, so basically -1 times 81, or AK, and I'm going to bring it down here, or if I want to even split this into two separate statements, like -1 times -81, square root of -1 times square root of 81, square root of 81 is going to be 9. But square root of -1, we just noticed on the definition, it was provided that I equals to -1. So this -1 will be I. So 9 times I will be 9I. And that will be my solution, which is on the question right here, which will be F. And that concludes my explanation for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. This is the last question for the exam 2 on the ACT website. So I will continue on to the exam 3. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel, like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter so that you could get updates as soon as possible on new videos that I create. I hope you have a wonderful day.